and we are using as one of our theme books this great new book, almost hot off the press, by Elizabeth Gilbert, called Big Magic: Creative Living Beyond Fear. Now, are you familiar with Elizabeth Gilbert and her work? She, this I think is like probably every woman's dream, to be played in the movie of your life by Julia Roberts. Right, and she was played in her book, Eat, Pray, Love. How many of you have heard that book? A book way better than the movie, by the way. Eat, Pray, Love was her book, and it was somewhat of an autobiographical novel. This is not a novel. It is a beautiful book about creative living beyond fear, or how to create big magic in our lives. Big magic that, in order to do, we must have the attitudes, we must have certain approaches, and we must have certain habits. She talks about those in order for us to uncover our hidden treasures, live beyond fear, and absolutely trust the universe. Boy, kind of right in line with everything we speak about here. So I'm really glad that she decided to be inspired and create some big magic by writing this wonderful book. So we're taking that book, as well as Ernest Holmes' Creative Minded Success, and blending them together for some great wisdom. And I love looking at it as the old wisdom and new wisdom, because this book was written in 1919 by our founder, Ernest Holmes. This book was written before the Science of Mind textbook was written. So 1919 to 2015. Quite a span of time, and yet both of them containing delicious ideas for us to work them together to create this big magic in our lives. And I was going to say, and by the way, these books are on sale in the bookstore, and we ordered more Big Magic, and they're in. They were in, and they're in and out. First Service was hungry for this. And I think we have one Big Magic left right now, but we'll get more for next week. And we actually are out of Creative Mind and Success. We'll get more for next week. So if you want them, tell the bookstore, and we'll be sure to get you on the list. No problem about that, and they're discounted a bit this month as well. So, last week, I want to back up just a tiny bit to lay the foundation, to reground the foundation that we laid last week for those of you who maybe weren't here, and also we can all use a little bit of a reminder. So 3 things that we explored last Sunday. The first one was we defined creative living. We defined what that means, according to Elizabeth Gilbert, and which is very consistent with how we believe in science of mind. So there are 2 aspects to creative living. One of them is we're living a life that is driven more strongly by something rather than by fear. Who remembers what that something is? A life that's driven more completely by... I heard it. Where was it? Curiosity. A life driven by curiosity rather than by fear. That's a great thing to think about and play with in your mind. What would a life driven by curiosity rather than driven by fear be like? Well, it would be creative. That's what it would be like. The second piece of creative living is that we are bringing forth from ourselves that which brings us joy and fulfillment. And then as we do that, we bring joy and fulfillment to the world. So 2 aspects of creative living: being driven by curiosity rather than fear, and bringing forth from us that which brings us joy and fulfillment, which then in turn supports the world in being joyful and fulfilled. That was the first premise on which we're working this month. Second idea is that every single one of us, with no exceptions, meaning that's you and 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 here, every one of us, not just the person sitting next to you, every one of us has hidden treasures within us that are calling to be brought out. And that when we bring them out and we express them and we live them, we live in joy and fulfillment, and we are a blessing to the world. And it takes some discovery sometimes to find them and courage to discover them, but they're there. So that's number 2. And number 3, this is another question to see if anybody remembers. We talked that how... what keeps us from discovering our hidden treasures is our fear, and our fear is what? What did she say? Thank you. Our fear is boring. It's boring. She even writes, our fears never change, they never delight, they never offer surprise twists or unexpected endings. Fear is a song with only one note, only one word, actually, repeated at full volume on an endless loop, and that word is stop, stop, stop. We are all equipped with the same basic fear package. There's nothing interesting or compelling or original about it. Although there are many things that are interesting, compelling, and original about you. But fear isn't one of them. We also talked last week, and I just need to anchor this again, that fear has its place, absolutely, but not when it's stopping us from expressing who we are and bringing out those hidden treasures. All right, and then Elizabeth Gilbert posed the question, and I posed it last Sunday, and that is, do you really want to build your life on the most boring instinct that you have? Do you really? We don't, but sometimes we do that. But even in that boring instinct, even in that instinct that keeps us back from doing what we really want, from diving in the way we really want, even in that moment, sometimes magic occurs. Something bigger than our fear happens, and Spirit delivers in a beautiful, amazing way. And I just am going to give you a little example of that in this very brief video. Here I go again. No, I don't think so. But I really want to do it. I'm going to try it again. Maybe. Okay, I'm going to try it again. Thank you, Pam, for that musical accompaniment. That was perfect. So sometimes big magic happens even in the middle of our fear, and we get shoved into that which we really want in the first place. Today we're going to talk about not being so shoved by fear, but creating big magic by being and by embracing enchantment. Embracing enchantment. And I love looking up words, even though I know what they mean. I still love to see what the dictionary has to say about them, because there's sometimes little nuances that I don't realize. And I looked up enchantment, and among the list of definitions it said, enchantment is the quality that attracts and holds our attention like a magic spell. Isn't that great? The quality that attracts and holds our attention like a magic spell. So today we're going to embrace our enchantment with our inspiration. Being enchanted by our own inspiration, which really are ideas, right? Our inspiration comes from ideas. And I want to give an interesting twist, a way to look at ideas that come straight out of big magic. And then I'm going to add my own little spiritual twist to it, which is kind of there, but not as articulated as overtly as I will. So here's the deal. We know that Spirit, God, infinite source, creative energy is, and I love that I just said that, creative energy. God is creativity, right? That is an essence quality of the divine, as are love and peace and harmony. But a big one is creativity. So creativity at the next level, creativity is a big abstract idea. At the next level, creativity would be ideas, right? So if we look at our science of mind symbol, which you can't see because it's behind there, but it's a science of mind symbol. It has 3 sections, and it has that V. I'm not going to teach the symbol. If you don't know it, please get in a class, because then you'll learn all the aspects and the nuances of the symbol. But the open part at the V is where infinite potential lives, and where all that unformed creativity in the form of ideas sits. And there's an infinite number up there, just hanging out up there. And some of those ideas, God herself, himself, itself, however you want to say that, brings those ideas into fruition, as in God decided an idea of God's was, let there be light, and so God just brought light. Some of those ideas, however, are a little bit different. According to Elizabeth Gilbert, those ideas, actually as all ideas, have a consciousness and a will. Curious to think that. But if everything is all God, everything is all consciousness, then they would. They have a consciousness, they have a will, but they only have one desire. That will is only for one thing, and that one thing is to be made manifest, to be brought out into form, into fruition. And some of those ideas, not all of them, but some of them need a human companion to bring them out. So it is through us that these divine emanations of God's creativity called ideas, it is through us that they get to live. So according to Elizabeth Gilbert, here they are hanging out, multitude, infinite number of ideas hanging out, and they're just looking for a possible open receptacle. And, they think they see one in you, or in you, or in you, or in me. Now, many of the times, we are oblivious to them. We're way too busy in our own little world, our world of upset and discord and, mad at this person, or, I'm too wrapped up in my TV shows, or whatever it might be that we do, and we don't even notice that they're there. They don't even land in us. So they'll hang around for a little while, but then realize that, I guess I was incorrect about an open receptacle. I'll go someplace else, and off they go. But sometimes, every now and again, one goes a little deeper and actually catches your attention. Elizabeth Gilbert writes this. She says, "But sometimes there comes a moment when you're open and relaxed enough to actually receive something. Your defenses might slacken and your anxieties might ease, and then magic can slip in. The idea, sensing your openness, will start to do its work on you. It will send the universal physical and emotional signals of inspiration. The chills up the arms, the hair standing on the back of the neck, the nervous stomach, the buzzing of thoughts, the feeling like you're falling in love. And then, in a quiet moment, it will ask, 'Do you want to work with me?'" Anybody ever had that experience? You're like, "Oh yeah, I know that experience. I bet you all have had it. You're just being shy this morning." We've had that moment. Now, at that point, we have two options. Option A is to say, "No, thank you. No, not for me. Don't have time, don't have energy, don't see how it can be done," whatever our reason is. And sometimes they're totally and completely legitimate, that we simply say no. I love this quote from Elizabeth Gilbert. She says, "I have many times been approached by ideas that I know are not right for me, and I have politely said to them, 'I'm honored by your visitation, but I'm not your girl. May I respectfully suggest that you call upon, say, Barbara Kingsolver?'" Now, I want to take a quick aside because this month is about magic and being open to the magic in the universe. And right there, that line for me was actually a magical moment, because I have been thinking lately, it's time to read a book for fun. I don't do that often. And every now and then, I just like to immerse myself in a book for fun. But I like it to be a good book, a good novel. And I've been looking every Sunday at the New York Times bestseller and reading the descriptions, and nothing has really hit me that I would want to go out and get. When I read that line, I love Barbara Kingsolver's books. I don't know if any of you have read her Bean Trees or Pigs in Heaven or Animal Dreams or Poisonwood Bible. Any of those books ring any bell with some of you? Oh, they are delicious, delicious books. And I love her work. Hadn't thought about her in years. So here it is. She says, of all the authors she could have said, she says, idea, go see Barbara Kingsolver, which made me realize that's who I want to read. And I went online and she's got some new books, and so I'm going to be reading another Barbara Kingsolver book or two. So thank you, Big Magic, for bringing that little sweet thing in. Anyway, Elizabeth Gilbert continues to write. She says, in parentheses, "I always try to use my most gracious manners when I'm sending an idea away. You don't want the word getting around the universe that you're difficult to work with." Whatever your response, though, do be sympathetic to the poor idea. Remember, all it wants is to be realized. It's trying its best. It seriously has to knock on every door it can. So it's okay if we say no. No problem with that. And here's a little something we need to remember if we've turned an idea down. How many of you know someone, or have ever done this yourself? It's rhetorical, you don't have to answer out loud, but you've had the idea. You actually got that physical, emotional answer like, oh yeah, this is good. And then for whatever reason, life got in the way, you got into fear, whatever it was, you didn't follow up on it. And sometime down the road, here it comes. It's in manifestation. Someone else has done it. And what do we say? Someone stole my idea. Someone stole my idea. Oh, no, they didn't. You were not the receptive vehicle for it. So it went someplace else because all it wants to do is be made manifest, and it will find a vehicle to manifest it. So from now on, if you choose, and you always have choice, we're always a choice. If you choose to say no, it's okay, but then you don't get to be mad about it, okay? No being mad about it when somebody else does it and makes bazillions of dollars, and you get mad and upset that that should be you because you are the one who had the idea. Ernest Holmes says we are created as individuals, and as such we have power of choice, coming right out of that book. What we need to do is select what we feel to be right and know that the universe will never deny us anything. We choose and mind creates. We should endeavor to choose that which will express always a greater life. So in that moment, it wasn't for you, but it expressed a greater life for someone else. So we celebrate that. We say, yay, good job. Maybe next time I'll evaluate a little more closely when an idea hits me and gives me that full body inspiration. Maybe when it hits me and divine spirit says, this would express greater good through me, maybe we ought to jump on board and say yes. So, and sometimes we do say yes. We get that full body, full emotional response that's yes, and we say yes. And then pretty soon, or often immediately on the heels of the yes comes, that darn fear again. Here it comes. I can't do that. I'm not good enough. I don't have time. It's, I don't know that it's really going to work. All that nonsense that we come to. But what I'm inviting us this morning is to embrace being enchanted by that inspiration. Think about it that way. I'm going to embrace being enchanted, meaning it's going to hold my attention. It's got a magic spell over me so that I'm going to bring it out into manifestation, into creation. So I want to share again a portion of the reading that Reverend Lonnie shared on my behalf. Thank you, dear, again, this morning when we first started the service, because it now really fits, and I want you to hear how it fits. Ernest Holmes wrote, when we feel that we have the right leading, in other words, when we realize we have been enchanted by our inspiration, when that something inside us tells us that we are led, then no matter what it appears like, we must follow it up. Something beyond our intelligence is doing the thing through us, and we must do nothing to contradict it. In other words, source, life itself, God is giving us that idea, and we have been gifted with that idea, and darn it, we need to do something with it. That's what he's telling us. He said, great are those who get a vision and then go to work to make it come true, never looking to one side, but with one pointedness and calm determination, stick to the thing until it is accomplished. He also says it takes patience and faith, but we can do that because we know there is a supreme intelligence at the center of it. So I want to give you two examples. One out there in the secular world, and one very personal to us here at CLF and to me. And I love it that the secular world one just happened as I was reading this book and preparing for our time together this month. So this happened about 3 weeks ago. Foundations class, you heard this story already, but stay awake and you're going to hear it again. So about 3 or 4 Tuesdays ago, I had a meeting here fairly late, got home. It was a little bit before 9 o'clock. Lonnie had prepared a salad for me, so I plopped down in the chair in front of the television to eat my salad and just kind of veg. I don't watch that much television, and I've never actually ever watched a reality show. I think I watched The Voice, one episode. I couldn't take it because they were all so good. I didn't want to watch anybody not get, taken on by one of the mentors, and because I couldn't stand it. So I don't watch reality shows. But I was tired. I plopped in front of the TV. Lonnie had been watching, the Sci-Fi Channel was on. It's 9 o'clock, time for a new show, and it is Face Off. Oh, look. Oh, I know. First over, like, oh, yeah. All right. Well, for those of you who don't know what Face Off is, I didn't have any idea. Face Off is a reality show where people come and are contestants for it's makeup. It's movie makeup. And in fact, it's like scary movie makeup. It's really scary, gory, creepy figures. So this night, it was the next to the last evening. So we're in the finalists. We have 3 finalists, Ben, Evan, and Nora. 3 finalists. I know this. And this is relative, I promise. It's very related to our conversation here and what we teach in Science of Mind. So here's the deal. They have their final project who's going to determine who wins this show for the season. And their final project is they are going to make a short film. They've been given a script. There's a director who's going to direct the film, and they're to create 2 characters, 2 creatures, to be part of the script that they are given. So that's what they're doing in this next to the last episode. And toward the end of it, like the last 15 minutes of it, they are told, after they've got their 2 characters ready and done and a little bit tested and some feedback on them, they're told, surprise, surprise, to really complete this project, you have to create a 3rd character. We are integrating a 3rd character, and they're all, So, actually, they weren't all like that. There are little snippets of interviews with each of the contestants. I guess this is how they do reality shows. They show, the people, the life, and what they're thinking. So Ben and Evan were both, when they learned that they had a 3rd character, were completely freaked out. Right? Oh my gosh, this is too much. I can't do it. They're separate interviews, but I can't do it. I don't know that I'm good enough to bring what the judges want. I certainly don't have enough time. There's so much pressure. I'm not sure I can do it. Blah, 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 blah. We've all said those things to ourselves, haven't we? Righto. So those were their attitudes. And then there's little Nora, this spunky little chick. She comes on and she says, "Bring it on. I can do this. My team and I, we are going to give it our best shot." Yep, there's not much time, I get it, but we're going to give it our best shot. I got a good team. We're creative. We work well together. We're going to get this done. That was her attitude. So then the show is over for the night, and you have to come back next week. And I had to go back next week because I had to know what happened. Now, not just because I was curious, although I was. It hooked me. One episode, it hooked me. That's not the only reason I had to go back. I wanted to see our teachings in manifestation. Because my theory was that little girl who had that attitude would be the winner. That was my theory, and I wanted to see my theory in action. So I made sure I was home in time the next Tuesday night. I left a meeting early so I could get home. No, I didn't really. Plopped down on the TV and, watched them film and da-da-da-da-da. Make their 3rd character and get to the grand finale judging. One of them, Ben's 3rd character, had problems. It wasn't that great, and you could tell from the judges that he was not going to win. But from what the judges were saying, the feedback they were giving, the comments they were making, not in front of the contestants, but to the audience, you would not know which of Nora or Evan, which one of their characters would win. They were equally good, and they were scary and well done. They were equally good, and the judges, there was no telling which one won. But of course, we know, don't we, that what we say and think manifests in our lives, and so the chick won. And again, I'm not excited that she won because she was a chick. I'm excited that she won because she had that attitude. Ernest says in this wonderful book, Creative Mind and Success, we cannot think one way one day and change our thought the next and hope to get the desired results. We must be very clear in our thought, sending out only such thoughts as we wish to see manifested in our condition. So all three of them, and they all made it to the top three. I mean, that's amazing in and of itself. They all had inspiration. They all got that divine inspiration to be on this show. They all followed and did everything that they could do to give the best product that they could do. But it's not just what we do, it's what we have walking around in here that makes the difference. That makes the difference, and that caused the chick to win. I love it. So the second example is personal. And I wanted to share it again, although some of you know this, but it's such a great example. Because as I mentioned last Sunday, and many of you remember, this year, 2015, CLF, Creative Living Fellowship, is celebrating its 20th year of being in existence. That's a little hard to believe. We've been hanging around for 20 years, but we have. It was 1995, April of 1995, when the first service happened at Maya Linda apartment complex, just north, I think, of Northern or south of Northern, north of Northern on 19th Avenue. So in that, I am thinking about our 20th anniversary and this whole year of celebrating that, and I'm reminded of how about maybe 15 years ago, 5, 6, 7 years maybe, and maybe it's like 13 years ago, we really got clear that we didn't want to do church anymore. At that point, we had moved a couple times, but had landed in a strip shopping center on 12th Street and Northern next to the SPY headquarters. How many of you were in that building? Look at all of you. Rock on. Yep. It was a great space. It served us well, but we had outgrown it. We'd expanded twice. We didn't want to pay any more rent. We didn't want to expand anymore. We wanted our own building. We wanted to own our own church, our own center, and not be at the whim of a landlord who may or may not change his mind about things, which ours changed his mind a lot about things. And so we started doing our work. We had inspiration to get our own place. We started doing our work in the world and doing our prayer work and our visioning and our intention setting and our fundraising and all of those things. And a couple of years went by. Ernest Holmes says we need faith and patience. I kind of ran out of faith and patience at one point. Anybody ever do that? Mm-hmm. It's like, come on. And I was at a place where I was like, come on, God, what's up? So it's like 9.5 years ago. I was at a, come on, God, what's up? We had made an offer on a cute little building. It wasn't for sale, but we decided to make an offer anyway. Because they had told us that they might be wanting to move. The congregation had told us that the minister had told us that they probably were going to sell. I'm like, okay. And we visited it, and we gave them an offer. And then they came back and said, no, you know what, we don't want to sell. Okay. That was my moment of, my patience and my faith had a moment. They had a moment where they weren't present. And then I had a conversation. You ever have I had a come to Jesus meeting with God. It really was like, come on, what's up? What is up with this? And I immediately got a full body answer. Everything that she describes in here as divine inspiration, that which is enchanting, I got goosebumps. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. My stomach got butterflies, and I started to cry. That's another one for me, when the waterworks occur for me. When I asked that question, what's up with this God? And this was the second time Spirit answered a question of mine with another question that led me on a most amazing journey. And the question was, where would we go? What would we buy? If money didn't matter, nothing mattered, we could have it, it would just be ours, where would it be? And instantly, the full body response came, this building. Now, why this building? This building at that point was Our Lady of Czestochowa, a Polish-speaking Catholic church. Why did this building come to my mind? Because before it was that, it was, for 25 years, First Church of Religious Science. It was the first religious science church in Phoenix. It is the church I walked into when I started my spiritual path in 1987. I came here to First Church of Religious Science. I grew up spiritually. I awakened spiritually here. I brought Lonnie when I started dating him. I dragged him. I didn't really have to drag him. He came pretty willingly. I brought him here. This church became an important part of our lives, First Church did. We got married on this, well, it's different now, but it was this stage We got married here. This church, First Church, was home. This building was home. Creative Living Fellowship was birthed out of First Church. And then we went off, and then I became the minister, and we're doing our thing over here. First Church sells it to Our Lady of Czestochowa, and now it's a Polish Catholic church. But when I sat in my office in the Strip Center at 12th Street and Northern, next to SPY headquarters, and said, where would the perfect place be? My full body said, the First Church building. That's it. That's it. And then my fear, boom, came up as a block, and but that's a bit of a problem, Michelle, because you just found out what happens when things aren't for sale. You just had the door closed. You just made an offer on a church that wasn't for sale. It's not for sale. And the second thing is, even if it were for sale, we'd been doing our due diligence. We knew how much money we had to spend between what we'd been pre-approved for with a loan and how much we had in cash. We had $1 million. That's what we had to spend. That was it. I knew this would be more than $1 million. I knew this church would not cost $1 million. So my mind said no, but my full body response, I was enchanted by the inspiration that this possibly could be our church home. And then I asked a question. Many of you have heard this question before, but you may have forgotten it. I want you to ask this question when you get full body inspiration and yet something wants to hold you back, something like fear. Something like your disbelief, something like you don't think it can happen. Here's the question. What would I do next? And you got to have that word because it's important. The next step if I did not think this was impossible. If I did not think this was impossible, what would I do next? And then let your enchantment with your inspiration, remember that which holds our attention, puts a magic spell over us, let that enchantment take us to do that step. And then ask it again, and ask it again, and ask it again, and ask it again. And that is exactly what we did here. Tim, were you the president of the board at that time? You were. There he is. That man right there. Raise your hand, Tim, so they see. Yeah, woohoo! Yahoo! We asked that question to each other a lot. What would we do next if we didn't think it was impossible? We stayed enchanted. And so here we are. 9 years later, we bought it in 2009, so 9 years later, here we are, having bought a church that wasn't for sale, and that, by the way, the Catholic diocese, when the church that was here said they wanted to sell, the Catholic diocese said, no, we're not selling and you're not buying, no, no, no. Took 6 months to prayerfully convince them that they were going to sell, but we did our work in prayer. The church here did their work in prayer, and finally the diocese said, okay, we give. You can sell it. If you can buy, you can sell. So it finally went on for sale, and then how much did I say we had? $1 million, and a bank had already told us that's how much you can have. 2 banks had told us, and others had turned us down. So we'd gotten a lot of no's, and we'd gotten 2 yeses at enough to make $1 million. $2.3 million is what it was, the market. $2.3 million. But, we're not going to let little details like that stop us. Because Spirit was in charge. The magic was happening. We were divinely inspired and remained enchanted. And here we are. We don't have to explain how, why. We don't have to understand how that happens. It simply does. Because that's how Spirit works in our lives when we're willing to say yes to those divine inspiration. Elizabeth Gilbert says this, all I know for certain is that this is how I want to spend my life, collaborating to the best of my ability with forces of inspiration that I can neither see, nor prove, nor command, nor even understand. It's a strange line of work, admittedly, and I cannot think of any better way to pass my days. My question to you is, how about you? As you contemplate that answer, I invite you to close your eyes. And I do ask you to contemplate that answer. How about you? Do you want to live your life embracing enchantment? The enchantment of the inspiration that comes to you, which is the creativity of God landing on you as an idea. And so that's a great, big picture, theoretical question. And I suspect every one of us would say yes to that. I want to take it down to more personal and ask you a more personal question. Is there an idea right now that has captured your attention, that you actually have been inspired by and maybe got that body response? Have you embraced that? The enchantment of that idea? Have you allowed that idea, that inspiration to take a hold of you, to grab your attention, to put a magic spell over you so that you move forward and do whatever step is next for you to bring that inspiration, that idea into fruition, into your life? Knowing that as you do, you are living creatively, which is the way you came here to live. Knowing that as you do that, you are bringing joy and fulfillment not only to yourself, but to the world. Knowing that as you do that, you are being who you came here to be. So if the answer to that series of questions is yes, then my prayer for you this morning is that in knowing that there is one source, one creative energy, one power that lives and moves and has its being as each of us, I proclaim that we take that divine idea, we take that inspired thought, we take that nudge of supreme intelligence and become so enchanted with it that there is nothing we can do but bring it forth. And that we have the courage, if that's what it takes, to take the next step. And when necessary, we ask the question, what is the next step? And we are led, we are guided every step of the way. And as Ernest Holmes said, the outcome is assured because the Supreme Being is at work in, through, and as our lives. So for this, I celebrate. And I am so grateful not only for us and for the experience we have as we live this way, but for the blessing to the world that we are. Because as we do these things and be these ways, we absolutely bring goodness and joy and peace and love and fulfillment and prosperity and happiness to the world. In fact, that to me sounds like kind of a perfect world. We become the living embodiment of the creation of a perfect world. How beautiful that is, and I'm so thankful for that. And I celebrate that. And in that celebration, I let this prayer go, knowing that it is the law's job to bring it about in the perfect way. So I trust and know that that is now what happens in, through, and as each of us. So I release, I let go. I let go and grow. I let go and trust. And together we say, and so it is. Amen.